So let's start the next topic of our revision, which is advanced tax, TDS and TCS. Let's imagine you are a salaried employee and your employer says that, boss, I'll pay you salary only yearly once. I will not pay you monthly salary. Then what will be your reaction? Hey, fellow, I need to meet a lot of my monthly expenses, rental expenses, food expenses, lot of other expenses are there. If you don't pay me monthly, this is not gonna happen. Exactly the same reaction even income tax department will get if you pay tax only yearly once. So in order to meet a lot of expenditure in the to run the country, government needs a monthly or quarterly lot of taxes, and those taxes which government gets on a monthly basis or quarterly basis are advanced tax, TDS and TCS. See, generally whenever a salary is paid to an employee, the employer deducts a TDS, something called as a TDS from the salary of the employee on a monthly basis. But when the employee will file the tax return at the year end, he will get all the credit of those taxes already deducted by the employer. Are you getting this? Let's look at this topic. Generally, an income of an assessee is taxable in the relevant assessment year. However, to prevent tax evasion and support working capital for the country, income tax is recovered from the assessee in the previous year itself through TDS, TCS and advance tax. At the time of filing return of income, TDS credit will be given. Now, sir, when to deduct TDS? When to deduct TDS? There are two concepts, boss. One, at the time of payment. Let's say, for example, I am paying you salary. At the time of paying a salary, I will deduct the TDS. There is one more concept which says at the time of payment or at the time of credit in accounts of the pay, whichever is earlier it says. What does it say? At the time of payment or at the time of credit. What is at the time of credit, sir? Nothing, boss. Whenever you write in your books of accounts, no, you make entry in your books of account, payable, accounts receivable, that is called at the time of credit in your books of accounts, and at the time of payment means at the time of actual payment, whichever is earlier. So there are two kinds of scenarios or two timelines given for a deduction of TDS. Number one, directly at the time of payment itself you have to deduct TDS. In the next alternative, at the time of payment or at the time of credit in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. So there are few payments for which you have to deduct TDS only at the time of payment, actual payment. In all other cases, in all other sections, you have to deduct TDS at the time of payment or at the time of a credit, whichever is earlier. What are those payments for which we have to deduct a TDS at the time of payment only? Let's have a look. However, in the following cases, the TDS shall be deducted at the time of payment itself. Payment of salary, section 192. Amount withdrawn from accumulated balance of provident fund account 192A, dividend 194, winnings from lotteries and all 194B, BB, BA, maturity of life insurance policy 194DA, compensation on a compulsory acquisition of a property 194LA, and cash withdrawing from bank at the time when the bank will deduct the TDS. Only in these scenarios you have to, the payer has to deduct TDS at the time of payment. In all other cases, in all other sections, whatever given in this chapter, in all other cases the payment has to be, or the TDS has to be deducted at the time of payment or at the time of credit in the books, whichever is earlier. TDS shall be deducted at fixed rates. You need not add a cess and a surcharge to it. But mind you, if you are making payment to a non-resident, at the time you will add a surcharge and cess. The first TDS section is section 192, salaries, boss. Whenever an employer pays a salary to employee, every month the employee has to deduct a little bit of taxes from the salary of the employee. Sir, how to determine the TDS amount, or how to calculate how much tax has to be deducted by the employer? Very simple, boss. Think logically. Employee will be paying tax on that salary income as per the slab rates, no, because employee is the individual. For individuals, if you remember, there are two tax regimes: optional tax regime, default tax regime, yes or no? So before paying the salary, the employer at the start of the year itself, he will ask the employee, boss, which tax regime you want to choose? Then employee will tell, boss, optional tax regime is very, very beneficial. I will get lot of deductions under chapter 6A. Default tax regime, though the tax rates are lesser, I don't get any kind of benefits. So let me opt for optional tax regime. So before paying the salary, the employer will ask the employee, and employee has to give an answer that the optional tax regime I will choose, or default tax regime I will choose. Accordingly, the employer will calculate the tax liability of the employee and will deduct the TDS. Are you getting this? So whatever rate, whatever tax liability, he will divide it by the salary, whatever average tax rate will be there for the deduction, at that rate of deduction will be done on the salary. Payer is every person responsible for paying salaries, that is employer. Payee means the employee. He can be either a resident or a non-resident. Rate of TDS shall be average rate of tax. How to calculate average rate of tax? Very simple. On whatever salary you are paying to employee, that you take, that you divide by the total income of the employee, expected total income, that you will get average tax rate. That you have to apply on the salary what you are paying. You will get the TDS, deduct it, and pay the rest to the employee. Time of deduction, just now we have seen time of payment. So in all the sections we will not again discuss the time of payment, because already at the start of chapter itself we have already discussed that in these scenarios the TDS has to be deducted at the time of payment. In all other scenarios you have to deduct TDS either at the time of payment or at the time of a credit in the books of accounts, whichever is earlier. Next, employer shall ask the employee about his preferred tax regime. Let's say, for example, employee does not give any answer to the employer about his tax regime. Employer asked, but employee did not give any answer whether he wants to opt for optional tax regime or default tax regime. In that case, by default, the employer will deduct the TDS, assuming the default tax regime is the tax regime under which the employee wants to pay tax. Are you getting this? Next. 192A, premature withdrawal of a provident fund. What is a premature withdrawal of provident fund? If you remember, in PGBP we had discussed something called as provident fund concept. Yes or no? There will be one bank account in which employee and employer will contribute, then interest will come. So from that provident fund account, if you withdraw any amount, on that amount, that PF organization will deduct TDS. It will deduct TDS only if the amount is exceeding 50,000, and the rate which it will apply is 10%. Interest on securities. What is interest on securities? Let's say, for example, the best example we can take is debentures. On debentures, if you remember in your accountancy, you would have read, if the company issues debenture, it has to pay interest. Yes or no? On that interest, it is this section is talking about. If any interest is paid on any kind of a security, at the time the payer has to deduct TDS under section 193. The rate of TDS will be 10%. Meaning of interest on securities. What is the meaning, sir? Security of interest on the security of a central government or state government, or interest on debentures or other securities. There are a few transactions in which there is no need to deduct TDS on the interest payments on securities. They are given here. You can just have a look. There is amendment, boss. What is the amendment, sir? I mean, a new transaction has been added on which the TDS has to be deducted. From 1/10/2024, TDS is applicable for interest payable on floating rate saving bond. There is a bond called as floating rate saving bond. On that, if you are receiving any interest, then the payer will deduct TDS under this section. But if the interest which you are receiving is exceeding 10,000, only in that case he will deduct TDS. The next section is 194A. It says interest other than interest on securities. Interest other than interest on securities means, let's say, for example, you have given a loan, hand loan to someone, and of course he will pay you interest now. So in that case, whenever that person will pay you interest, he will deduct TDS. Is it an interest on security? No, there is no security, boss. Security means a debenture is a security, a bond is a security. But here you have just given loan. On that loan you are receiving interest, then the payer will deduct TDS under this section, which is 194A. Now keep in mind one thing, this section does not apply to an individual or HF having a last year turnover in business up to 1 crore or gross receipts in a profession up to 50 lakhs. See, there are some special people, boss, individual and HF. whose turnover in business is only up to 1 crore, means less than 1 crore, or he is into profession, in that case then the gross receipts of the profession is only less than 50 lakh rupees. These two people you have to keep in mind throughout the TDS chapter. So wherever this kind of a dialogue is written, any person other than individual or HF having total last year turnover in the business. Last year means, let's say for example, in this year you are making payment. Last year means last previous year. In the last previous year, if you are an individual or a HF, and if you are a payer, if you are a payer, you are an individual or HF, and if your last year turnover is less than 1 crore, or if you are into profession, then last year's gross receipts is less than 50 lakhs, then in that case, you being a payer, you are not required to deduct any TDS. Getting it? But if you are a payer of interest or any other payments, which we will discuss in other sections also, wherever same dialogue will come, the same interpretation you have to keep. Okay, I am a payer, my last year's turnover in business is less than 1 crore. Or if I am into profession, if I am a payer, then if my gross receipts are less than 50 lakh rupees, in that case I am not required to deduct TDS on the payments which I will make to the payee. In this scenario, if someone has given loan to me, at the time of me making payment of interest to the payee, I need not deduct TDS if my last year turnover in business is less than 1 crore, or if I am into profession, then last year gross receipt was less than 50 lakhs. If I am other than these two kind of a persons, then I am required to deduct TDS under this section or those sections wherever the same dialogue will repeat. Are you getting this? So I will not again explain this dialogue everywhere. Okay, so interest other than interest on securities, the rate of TDS shall be 10%. No TDS in a few transactions. This is important, boss. If aggregate interest payment is up to 5,000. So let's say for example, you are making interest payment to someone, but the interest itself is 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 or something like that, less than 5,000, then no need to deduct any TDS. If interest is paid by a bank and if the interest is up to 40,000, let's say for example, you deposited some amount in a bank of course will pay you interest, and on that interest bank is required to deduct TDS, but bank will deduct TDS only if the interest amount per annum is 40,000 or more. Are you getting that? If the interest payment from the bank and a cooperative bank or a post office, if it is exceeding 40,000, then only the bank or cooperative bank will deduct TDS, otherwise not. Interest received by senior citizen if it is up to 50,000. So if a senior citizen deposits anything in bank, then at the time of paying interest to the senior citizen, the bank will deduct TDS only if the interest payment is more than 50,000. Interest by a firm to any of its partners, non-applicability. Whatever we are discussing here, no TDS, no TDS on these transactions. So if a partnership firm pays interest to a partner, then TDS is not required to be deducted. Interest on deposits under any scheme of a central government, savings bank account interest paid to bank means you are paying interest to bank. At that time you need not deduct TDS. But when the bank will pay you interest, bank will deduct TDS. At the time of you making payment interest to bank, nothing to deduct any TDS. Interest on a motor vehicle accident compensation, if it is up to 50,000, no need of TDS. Interest by cooperative societies, but one thing you need to keep in mind for cooperative societies, for the cooperative society for which the turnover is less than 50 crores, only in that case exemption is given. If the turnover of the cooperative society is more than 50 crores, then the TDS will be applicable. Deposits, interest on deposits with the primary agriculture credit society, interest on deposits with the cooperative bank, interest on a zero coupon bond. For all these three things, no need of TDS. Now keep in mind one more thing. When I say bank, if the bank is paying you interest, I am saying per bank it is. It is not per branch. Let's say for example, you received interest from two branches of the same bank. In that case, both amounts will be calculated and then only limit of 40,000 or 50,000 will be checked. Next is the dividend income. If you receive any dividend from a company, at the time the company has to deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. If the dividend is up to 5,000, no need of TDS. If the dividend is beyond 5,000, then the TDS will be applicable. Now keep in mind one more thing, TDS shall also be deducted on deemed dividend. Deemed dividend we discussed in detail under income from other sources chapter. So on that also TDS will be deducted. Winning from lotteries and crossword puzzles. If you play any games at the time, higher rate of TDS of 30,000, 50% will be levied. But if your winning itself is up to 10,000 rupees, means your winning is not exceeding 10,000, then there is a no need of TDS, and it will be deducted under section 194B. Winning from horse races. Horse race you did and you won some money out of that. 30% will be deducted as TDS. Here also same story. If the winning is up to 10,000, then there is no need of a TDS. Winning from online games, boss. This is important because recently this has been added in the Income Tax Act 194 BA. See, online game, how it happens means you first create account in an online game. Then you deposit some amount into that online game account. Then you play something. Then if you lose money, that let's say for example, you deposited 10,000 in an online game account and you bet or something you will do with that amount. Let's say for example, you lost the game. So out of 10,000, let's say for example, you lost 5,000. So 95,000 will be, sorry, 9,500 will be the balance in the account which you can withdraw. Or let's say for example, you deposited 10,000, you won 1,000 rupees. In that case, total balance will be 11,000. That amount you can withdraw, no? Yes or no? Now what we are looking at is the net winnings. Winning is how much? How much you won? 1,000 rupees. Yes or no? So the TDS will be deducted on the winning amount at the time of withdrawal. So whenever you will withdraw the amount from the online game account, at that time TDS will be deducted by the gaming company. Are you getting this? So first you deposited 10,000, then you played a game. You, let's say for example, your winning was 1,500 rupees. So total balance in the account will be how much now? 10,000 plus 1,500, 11,500. No, at the time of withdrawal, at the time of withdrawal of 11,500 from the online game account, the online gaming company will deduct TDS only on the winning amount. It will not deduct TDS on the whole 11,500. Only on 1,500 it will deduct the TDS. Are you getting this? Keep this in mind and let's read this section. So the rate of TDS here also is 30%. Time of deduction at the time of withdrawal from user account and at the end of financial year. See boss, let's say for example, this year you did not withdraw any amount from the online game account. As it is, the money is there and the financial year has ended 31st of March. In that case, even though you have not withdrawn any amount as on 31st of March, whatever balance is there, no, on that winning, whatever is there already in your name, on that winning TDS will be deducted. So in two scenarios TDS will be deducted. If you are withdrawing during the financial year from the online game account, at the time of withdrawal the TDS will be deducted on the winning amount. But let's say for example, during the financial year you did not withdraw any amount, as it is the money is laid in the online game account. In that case, TDS will be automatically deducted as on the last day of the financial year. Are you getting that? Now TDS on withdrawal during the financial year will be on net winning only, boss. Now your doubt will be how to calculate the net winning, sir. Very simple. Net winning has to be calculated by doing this formula A plus D minus B plus C. Let's have a look at this. A means aggregate amount withdrawn from user account during the financial year. D means closing balance of user account at the end of financial year. B means aggregate amount of non-taxable deposit. Non-taxable deposit means very simple, boss. Whatever amount you deposited in the account, that is called non-taxable deposit. C means opening balance of the user account at the beginning of financial year. If you just take this formula, you will get the net winning. On that TDS will be deducted by the gaming company. Now there is no TDS if your net winnings itself is up to 100 rupees, boss. Very simple. You just keep in mind that thing. Now winning is if it is in kind. Kind means what? You are not given a prize money for as a winning, but you are given some, let's say for example, you won some lottery, then you will get some what do you call, you will sorry, you won a game and in the game the prize is given as a some car. So they will give you car if you win the game. In that case, if the car has to be given by the gaming company, they have to ensure that the first tax is paid by you. So how will you pay tax? You have to take that TDS amount and you have to deposit in the gaming account, then only the car will be released to you. The payer shall, before, payer means the gaming companies, shall before releasing the winning ensure that the tax has been paid in respect of the net winnings. The deductor shall release the net winnings in kind after the deductee provides proof of a payment of such a tax. Are you getting this? Next, payment to contractors and subcontractors, 194C. See, contract means what? Let's say, for example, I want to create something, but I don't know how to create. I will give you contract. Maybe let's say, for example, I want to construct a building. I can't go and construct. No, I will give contract to someone. Boss, you please get all the material, everything. Please construct a building for me. Yes or no? Or let's say, for example, in a lot of times you will see that this products, whatever see in the market. Let's say, for example, a toy, toy manufacturing will be done by someone, but some other person will purchase in bulk those toys. Packaging he will do very beautifully and just sell off. Now, here, let's say, for example, I am giving order of 1,000 toys to a manufacturing concern, and material, raw material, everything I will only provide. I'm just telling him this kind of a toy you have to prepare. That kind of a contract is also called as a job work. No, even that is covered here. Are you getting this? You need to keep in mind one thing. In case of contracts, if per contract, if the payment what you are making is up to 30,000 rupees, in that case TDS is not applicable. If you have given multiple contracts to one single person, in that case all the contracts put together, if it is up to 1 lakh rupees only, in that case TDS is not required. Let's say, for example, I gave 3 contracts to one single person, same person, I gave 3 contracts. One contract amount we discussed or we decided was 30,000, or let's not keep this here like this. Let's say, for example, for one contract it is 20,000, the other contract it is 60,000, and let's say, for example, the another contract is the 50,000, for example. In this contract 20,000 I have given, no? Yes or no? But this is the first contract. Has it exceeded 1 lakh totally? No. Individually 30,000? No. But when I came here, individually it is 30,000 exceeding, no, already 60,000. But overall it is not exceeding 1 lakh, no, it is not exceeding 1 lakh. In that case, I need to deduct TDS only on this thing. Are you getting this? But when I came to third contract, when I gave this person, already overall amount has already exceeded 1 lakh. In that case, on the overall amount, TDS has to be deducted. I hope that is clear. Any person other than an individual HF, the same story, boss. For carrying out any work including supply of labor, even a supply of labor is treated as a contract. Rate of TDS, if the person who is a contractor who will do work for, if he is an individual or HF, then you have to make a TDS at the rate of 1% when you are making payment to contractor. If the contractor is other than an individual or HF, in that case the TDS rate will become 2%. No TDS if single contract is up to 30,000, aggregate up to 1 lakh, whatever we discussed. Now, definition of a works contract. Please keep in mind this thing, very, very important. Unless you know definition, how will you know whether you have to deduct TDS or not? Advertising, broadcasting, telecasting, including production of programs for such broadcasting is treated as a work. So you have to deduct TDS in case of this kind of a transaction. Carriage of goods or passengers by any mode other than railways. So if someone is carrying goods for you from one destination to other destination, at the time of making payment you have to deduct TDS. Catering services, if you take from someone, at the time of making payment you have to deduct TDS. Manufacturing or supplying of a product according to requirement of a customer by using material purchased from some other customer, from such customer or its associate, is called a job work. Let's say, for example, 2 scenarios, boss. Scenario number 1, you gave contract of manufacturing something to someone and raw material also provided by you only. Scenario number 2, you gave manufacturing contract to some contractor, but You did not give raw material. That the contractor will buy the raw material from someone else. Two scenarios are there. In scenario number one, where you only providing raw material to that manufacturer or the contractor, in that case only it will be treated as a job work, and that only is covered under section 194C. If the contractor or the manufacturer buys the raw materials from some outside party, in that case you cannot apply 194C, because that will become sale of a product. But there is one exception to that. What is that, sir? In the case of a construction of a building, even though the contractor will buy the raw material from outside party, still that transaction will be treated as a work only, and at the time of you making the payment to the contractor, you will deduct TDS under section 194C only. Got it? Next. No TDS in these cases. Manufacturing or supplying of a product according to the requirement or specification by using raw material purchased from a person other than the customer. This transaction which I was telling, that you will not deduct TDS. Payment in nature of transport charges made to transporter owning less than 10 goods. So I told you that if you are using someone else's vehicles to transport the goods from one place to another, but if the transporter has less than 10 goods vehicle, in that case no need to deduct TDS. Payments made by television channel. Very simple example I'll take, boss. Let's say for example there is a product called Maza drink. Yes or no? Maza drink, they want to publicize that they have a very good product. They want to do advertisement. Now there are three parties involved in this. Let me show you a pictorial format. You have to understand all this. This is Maza. This is Maza company. There is one advertisement agency. Then there is TV channel. What this advertisement agency will do, it will create ad means this agency, advertisement agency, will call Katrina Kaif, and they will give idea to this Maza fellow. We will create one advertisement. Katrina Kaif will have one drop of Maza. Full India will have Maza. How is the idea? They will ask Maza fellows. Are you getting this? So Maza's product has to be broadcasted on TV channel. No. So there are three parties. One is the Maza, the advertisement agency which will create the advertisement, and the TV channel which will broadcast in the whole country. Are you getting this? Now, whenever a Maza company will make a payment to this advertisement agency for creating that ad, on that TDS has to be deducted under section 194C. But you know what? Payment will also be made by TV channel to advertisement agency, because advertisement agency is getting business for TV channel. No, who got Maza company to a TV channel? This advertisement agency only got it. So little bit of commission will be given by TV channel to advertisement agency. No, on that there is no requirement to pay or deduct TDS under section 194C by the TV channel to advertisement agency payment. Are you getting this? Next, let's have a look. Okay, payments made by television channels or newspaper companies to advertisement agency for booking or procuring canvassing for advertisements. No need of deducting TDS. Got it? Notes. Payments made by client means here who? Maza to advertisement agency is liable to deduct TDS under section 194C. If in case of construction contract, even if construction is done using material purchased from a outside party, it is still considered as a work, and you have to deduct TDS. If value of material is separately mentioned in the invoice, then only deduct on the services part of the TDS. If value of material is not separately mentioned in the invoice, then total invoice value will be supposed to get a TDS. Cold storage charges is the cold storage charges which involves a providing of refrigeration facility as well as storage facility will be required to deduct TDS under section 194C. You will be seeing these ice creams will be kept in one cold storage facility. Yes or no? Generally, if you are using someone's space, you think that it is a rent. Sorry, correct. Then you will think that you have to deduct TDS under section 194I for rental purpose. No, it is not like that. If you are storing something in a storage facility, they also take care of other things, so that is called as a contract. Actually, you cannot treat it as a rental income, so you cannot deduct TDS under section 194I. You have to deduct TDS under 194C only whenever you are making payment to cold storage persons. No need of TDS if a payment made by individual you have to contract it exclusively for personal purposes. If you are doing only for business purpose, if you are giving contract to someone, in that case only TDS will be applicable. Are you getting this? Next, insurance company. Wherever you see commission, insurance commission, the limit will be 15,000. Now keep in mind one thing. If the pay is a domestic company, then the TDS rate will be 10%. If all other pays, the TDS rate will be 5%. Any kind of a commission of insurance commission. Insurance agents will be there. No, a lot of agents who will get commission from the LIC company. Those agents, whenever the LIC company will make payment, the LIC company will deduct a TDS under this section only for the commission paid to the agents. Maturity of LIC policy. If you remember, we had discussed this topic in income from other sources. At the time of maturity, the amount will get exempted under section 1010D. Are you getting that? Now, at the time of maturity of a LIC policy, other than exemption cases where the maturity amount is taxable, in that case the TDS will be deducted here. Now mind you, here there are amendments, boss. On or after, if the LIC company is making payment, in that case the TDS rate will be 2%. But if the payment was done till or before 1st of October 2024, in that case the TDS rate will be 5%. Now mind you, if the maturity amount is less than 1 lakh, then there is no need to deduct any kind of TDS. Next, sir, on what amount the TDS will be deducted, sir? On the whole maturity amount? No, boss. TDS rate shall apply only on income. What is income, sir? Maturity amount minus premium paid. Very logical, no, boss. Whatever maturity amount you will get, out of that, whatever you earlier paid premium, then whatever the balance you will get, that is only income for, on that income, TDS will be deducted. On a lottery, commission on sale of lottery tickets. Here you have not one lottery. You are a commission agent who sells lottery tickets. In that case, TDS rate is 2% if you are selling the lotteries after 1 October 2024. If before 1st October, or you can say till 30th September, the TDS rate is 5%. And if the commission is up to 15,000, there is no need of TDS. But if the commission exceeds 15,000, TDS will be deducted under this section. Commission and brokerage. All other commission and brokerage, general commission and brokerage, will be covered under section 194H. Till 30th of September, 5%, 1/10/2024, 2%. You have to deduct TDS, and here also the rate given is 15. The threshold limit given is 15,000. Rent on plant and machinery, building, furniture and land, 194I. So if you take on rent, building, or plant and machinery or furniture or land, in that case, at the time of making a rental payment to the landlord, you have to deduct TDS under the section 194I. Are you getting this? Now let's say, for example, from one single person only, I took both plant and machinery also and building also on rent. Then both, for both the land and building and plant and machinery purpose, whatever rent I am paying, both put together, I will check the limit given in this section. The limit given is 2,40,000, boss. Means if you are making payment up to 2,40,000 to your landlord, then TDS is not required to be deducted. But if you are making payment more than 2,40,000 to your landlord, you have to deduct TDS. Now let's say, for example, 2 lakhs rent I am paying for building to the same person, 60,000 I am paying rent for plant and machinery to the same person. Then total payment I made to this same person is 2,60,000, which is exceeding 2,40,000. Then I am required to deduct TDS. You cannot say, sir, or 2 lakh only, no, I paid rent on building, 60,000 only, no, I paid rent on plant and machinery. No, boss. For a single person, how much payment of rent you are making, on that you will deduct a TDS. Are you getting this? Plant and machinery equipments, you will deduct a TDS at the rate of 2%. Land and building or furniture, you will deduct a 10%. So at the time of making a payment of rent for land and building and furniture, you will deduct at the rate of 10%. But if you are making a payment of rent for plant and machinery or equipment, in that case, TDS rate will be 2%. There is no need of a TDS if you are making rental payment of up to 2,40,000 to single person. Very, very important. Note, payee need not be need not be the owner of the asset. Payment made by customers on account of cooling charges to cold storage. Just now we discussed cold storage will be deducted under 194C. It is not under 194I. Now, no requirement to deduct TDS under section 194I on passenger service fee by airline to airline operator. What is this, sir? Let's say, for example, there is a Bangalore International Airport. Yes or no? Airport is there, no? Airport is not owned by airline company. Airline companies which SpiceJet, Indigo, Kingfisher, these are airline companies. Airport is different. Airline companies are different. Now, if one aeroplane is coming and landing on the airport, in that case, the airline company has to pay some charges to airport. No, that charges, the airline company thought that since they are parking their aeroplane there, so they have to deduct TDS under rental section 194I. But that is not the case, because apart from just landing charges of aeroplane, there are other services also, baggage services, everything provided by the airport. That is why you cannot deduct TDS under section 194I for landing the aeroplanes. No TDS on refundable deposits. If you are giving some advance to your landlord, on that no need to deduct TDS. Transfer of immovable property 194IA. Whenever you purchase a property from someone, if you are purchasing a property worth more than 50 lakh rupees, I repeat, if you are a buyer of a property means land or building or both. So if you are buying a land or building or both, and if the value of the land which you are buying or a building which you are buying is more than 50 lakh rupees, in that case, you have to deduct a TDS under section 194 IA, boss. How much is the TDS? 1% on a sale value of SD or SDV, whichever is higher. Now, under section 50C in capital gains chapter, we read one concept called as, if the stamp duty value is more than 110% of the actual sale consideration, then consider stamp duty value. Yes or no? If in that kind of a scenario, if that is the kind of a scenario, in that case, you have to deduct TDS on 1%. Here you will, when at the time of deducting TDS, you will check SDV or sale value, whichever is higher. If your SDV is higher, then you have to deduct TDS on a SDV. If your sale value is higher than SDV, in that case, you will deduct TDS on a sale value. Are you getting this? So the rate here is 1%. TDS will be applicable if the SDV or sale value is 50 lakhs or more. No TDS on a transfer of rural agricultural land. Anyway, rural agricultural land is not taxable, so no need of a TDS. So consideration shall include all kind of charges, whatever you are collecting from the buyer. Where there is more than one transferor, let's say for example, I am buyer, and the sellers are two parties. It can happen, no, joint ownerships are there. In that case, 50 lakhs you will not see for each of the owners. Both put together, total purchase value of the building or land, if it is more than 50 lakhs, straight away deduct TDS. Next, IB, payment of rent by certain individual or HF. Now remember, when we started this topic, I told you that if you are an individual or HF, and you are an individual or HF, and if your gross turnover in the last year is less than 1 crore, or if you are into profession, then if your gross receipts are less than 50 lakh rupees, in that case you are not required to deduct TDS, I told you. Now, this is section 194B IB 194 IB is applicable only in those individuals or HF whose turnover is less than 1 crore in the last year, or gross receipts less than 50 lakhs in the last year. Very simple, if I have to say, individual HF not covered under section 194I. See, this section also talks about rent only. 194I also talks about rent only, no? See, I am a tenant. If I am paying rent for any plant and machinery or land or building, I have to generally deduct TDS under section 194I. But if you look at this 194I section, here this dialogue is given. Other than individual HF having last year turnover up to 1 crore or 50 lakh rupees. Now, other than they told means these people are not covered. No, here individual HF having less than 1 crore or 50 lakhs of turnover or gross receipts are not covered. No. So, whoever are not covered here, they are required to deduct TDS under section 194B. That is why here it is told individual HF not covered under 194I will be deducting TDS if they are making a rental payment under this section 194IB. Are you getting this? The TDS rate, if made same dialogue, if the payment is made after 110 or before 110, in that case the rates are this. Now, when should the TDS shall happen, sir? Very simple, boss. If you are, let's say, for example, salaried person, do you have any turnover or do you have any business? No. Even if you have business, let's say, for example, your turnover itself is a 30 lakhs or 50 lakhs, so it is less than 1 crore. No. In that case, if you are making any rental payment to your landlord, in that case you have to deduct TDS. But provided there is one condition: if the rent of the building is more than 50,000 only, then you will deduct TDS. If you rent paying 30,000, 20,000, 25,000, then no need to deduct any TDS. Monthly rent I am telling 50,000. No TDS if rent is up to 50,000 or per month or part of the month. When do you deduct TDS? Very simple, boss. Let's say, for example, during this whole financial year, you have not vacated the property, then you have to deduct the TDS at the last month of the financial year. So, you will generally deduct TDS in the month of March. Are you getting it? Last month of the financial year, you have to deduct TDS. And one more thing, one beautiful thing, the TDS amount cannot exceed the last month's salary. And if, let's say, for example, during the financial year you vacated the property, let's say, for example, you vacated the property in the month of December itself, then you have to deduct the TDS in the last months of tenancy. Means in the month of December, when you will vacate, at the time of making the rental payment to the landlord, you have to deduct TDS for the whole year's rent whatever you paid. So in this section, you do not deduct TDS every month on every month's rental payment which you make to landlord. You have to deduct TDS only on the last month of the financial year or last month's tenancy. You will not deduct TDS every month, boss. Are you getting this? At the time of credit of rent for the last month of the previous year or at the time of credit for the last month of tenancy. Are you getting it? If, let's say, for example, your landlord did not give you his PAN number, in that case you will deduct at the rate of 20% and then pay him that rest of the amount of rent. However, in any case, TDS shall not exceed the amount of rent of the last month. As I already told you, the month in which you will deduct TDS, that TDS shall not exceed the amount of rent of that month. Fees for technical services or professional services. So if you take any kind of professional services from someone for business purpose, boss, not for personal purposes. For your business purposes, you take any kind of professional services or technical services. In that case, at the time of making payment, you have to deduct TDS under this section, which is 194J. What is the rate, sir? For fees for professional services and other payments, the rate given is 10%. For below cases, the rate is 2%. What are these cases, sir? Fees for technical services, royalty on cinematographic films, and payment to call center. So if you are taking any of these services, in that case, the rate of TDS for making payment is 2%. If you are taking professional services, then the rate of TDS will be 10%. What are the nature of payments covered under this section is given here. Are you getting this? Now keep in mind one thing. In 194C, we discussed that at the time of, let's say, for example, to one single contractor, you have given 4 contracts. In that case, you will see the aggregate amount of contract if it is exceeding 1 lakh, each individual contract 30,000. Do you remember that? Yes or no? Now here in professional services, from one particular person, though you might have taken multiple professional services, but the limit of 30,000 will apply for each type of service. For example, there is a person, Thalaiva. I have taken 3 kinds of services from Thalaiva. Let's say, for example, fees for professional services 1, fees for technical services 1, and royalty. So I am paying payment for royalty, I am making payment for professional services, I am making payment for technical services. In this case, for each of the type of service, the cap of 30,000 or the limit of 30,000 will apply. I cannot say that all put together 30,000 it is increased, so we have to deduct TDS. No. Let's say, for example, for a fees for professional services, I am making payment of 10,000. For fees for technical services, I am making payment of 20,000, and royalty payment I am making another 20,000. If you add all these three, it is already exceeding 30,000, means total is 50,000. But still, if you look at individually, royalty 10,000, FPS 30,000, 20,000, FTS 20,000, none of them individually has gone beyond the 30,000. Yes or no? Totally, they have gone beyond 30,000, but individually only you will look at. No TDS if payment is up to 30,000 for each type of service. Limit of 30,000 is applicable separately for FPS, ATS, royalty, and NCF. However, there is no limit for making payment to director whenever you make payment to director, because that is also covered in your remuneration to director. So for remuneration to director, you no need to check 30,000. Even if you make payment of 10,000 as a remuneration to director, TDS will be applicable. Now note, individual HF are not required to deduct TDS on royalty and SCF payments. So individuals and HF, if they are making payment to for purpose of royalty or a NCF, in that case, no need of TDS. No need of TDS if individual uses FPS exclusively for personal purposes. No need. Now, third party administrators, if they are making payment to any hospitals, in that case, no need of a TDS. Who is a third party administrator means generally in the case of a health insurance, what happens? A patient goes to hospital. He will show the LIC, the health insurance documents. Yes or no? Health insurance, if you have, does the patient pay anything to the hospital? No. Who will pay? First, there will be one a third party administrator who will pay on behalf of a patient, and on behalf of a health insurance company. Then health insurance company will make payment to third party administrator. That third party administrator is a mediator between the hospital and the insurance company. Next, consideration for use of or right to use the computer software is royalty shall be liable to deduct TDS. Next, boss. Meaning of a professional services, meaning of a technical services are given here. You can just have a look. Next section is 194K. If you invest in some mutual funds and that mutual fund company pays you any kind of income, in that case TDS will be deducted by the mutual fund company under section 194K. They will deduct TDS only if your income is exceeding 5,000, and they will deduct TDS at the rate of 10%. Next, compulsory acquisition of an immovable property. If you remember, we had discussed in capital gain, there is a concept called compulsory acquisition where the government compulsorily acquire your property. In that case, they have to pay you compensation. No, that compensation it is talking about. Compensation on compulsory acquisition of immovable property. If the compulsorily acquired property, for that, if compensation is paid by the government, they have to deduct TDS and then only pay you the compensation. But they will deduct TDS only if the compulsory acquisition compensation is more than 2,50,000 rupees. If it is only up to 2,50,000, they will not deduct TDS. And the rate they will apply is 10%. Now, one beautiful point here. Generally, urban agriculture land is a capital asset. Do you remember that capital asset definition which we discussed in capital gains chapter? We discussed that capital asset means property of any kind held by assessee, whether movable, immovable, tangible, intangible. Securities held by FII. These two are property, but excludes stock in trade. Do you remember that? Rural agriculture land. Yes or no? Rural agriculture land was not a property. Capital asset was not a capital asset. But urban agriculture land is a capital asset. No. But here, for the purpose of only TDS, boss, for the purpose of only TDS, if the compulsorily acquired asset is, even though urban agriculture land, TDS will not be deducted. So simply putting, agriculture land, be it urban or rural, if it is compulsorily acquired by the government and if a compensation is received by you, then TDS will not be deducted on that payment. Are you getting this? Next. 194M. Let's say, for example, you are an individual or HF. But before even telling this, I have to tell you something, boss. See, The dialogue which I told you, one dialogue, that if your last year turnover is less than 1 crore, last year the gross receipt less than 50 lakhs, and if you are an individual HAF, then no need to deduct TDS. I told you one dialogue. You being a payer. If the payer is a person who is an individual or HF, and if the last year's turnover is less than 1 crore or last year's the gross receipt is less than 50 lakhs, in that case there is no need to deduct TDS. I told you, yes or no? That applies in how many sections, sir? It applies in 194 H, 194 I, 194 J, 194 A, 194 C. Generally, it applies in these 5 sections. In these 5 sections, if you are an individual or HF whose last year's turnover is up to 1 crore or up to gross receipts or up to 50 lakhs, then no need to deduct TDS. Are you getting this? You being a payer from the payer standpoint. Yes. Now, let's say for example, due to that dialogue, you were not supposed to deduct any TDS under 194C, 194H, and 194J. In that case, there is one section which is 194M, which says that if you are an individual HF other than those covered under 194C, 194J, and 194H, only if you are an individual or HF other than those covered in 3 sections, 194C, 194J, 194H. In that case, if you are making an aggregate payment for all these 3 services, means what? 194C contract, 194J professional services, and 194H commission. If all these 3 put together, if in a previous year, if the payments which you made under any of these 3 sections put together, if already exceeded 50 lakh rupees, then you have to deduct TDS. So no TDS if aggregator or amount of payments under section, all these 3 sections are up to 50 lakhs, then there is no need of a TDS. But otherwise, you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 2% or 5%. Note, individual or HF having turnover in last year up to 1 crore or gross receipt up to 50 lakhs are covered under this section, which I just now told. Individual HF using services under section 194CJH for personal purposes are covered under this section, because the first line itself says individual HF other than covered under 194CJH. It says no. In 194G, 194J, 194C, if you remember, there was one line saying that if you use 194C services or 194J services for personal purpose, that section will not apply. It is written, yes or no? If that section does not apply there for personal services, it will apply here for personal services. Okay. TDS on cash withdrawal. If you withdraw cash from bank, the bank will deduct TDS. Not on all kind of transactions, but if you fall under any of this category, in that case, bank will deduct TDS even on cash withdrawal. What is it, sir? If person who is withdrawing the money has not filed return of income for the last 3 preceding previous years and the due date has expired, in that case, if the person is withdrawing a amount exceeding 1 crore in cash from the bank, then the TDS will be deducted at the rate of 2%. Are you getting this? If you have not filed return of income for any of the 3 preceding previous years, not filed within the due date 1391 and it is expired, see, here it says all 3 preceding previous years. Here it says any 3 preceding previous. What is the difference? For all 3 years, you did not file the return of income is a different scenario. For any means, out of 3 years, last 3 years, you filed return for even 1 year, then you will fall under this category. You did not file a return for any of the 3 previous years. All 3 previous years, you did not file return of income. Then TDS will be checked under this provision. Are you getting this? So if you have filed any one of the years return or 2 returns you filed, but out of these 3, any 3 previous preceding years you did not file any return, in that case, TDS will be deducted at 2%. If your withdrawal is up to 20 lakhs to 1 crore, 2%. If you are withdrawing exceeding 1 crore, in that case, 5% of TDS rate will be applicable. TDS, cash withdrawn by cooperative society. If a cooperative society withdraws cash, in that case, the limit given is 3 crores. The rate of TDS will be 2%. No TDS if cash withdrawn by government, bank, cooperative bank, and all. Next, senior citizens. TDS by bank in case of senior citizen. Let's say, for example, there is a senior citizen who does not have any income other than the interest what he is getting from the bank. So he does not do any kind of business, nothing. He has only that interest income from the bank what he is receiving. That is it. His total income for the year. In that case, the bank can deduct the TDS under this section. Mind you, senior citizen generally as per the optional tax regime slab rate, it is senior citizen we call for a person who is 60 years of age more. But here in this provision, the senior citizen will be called if you are 75 years or age of more. At what rate the bank will deduct TDS? The bank will deduct TDS at the rate of slab rate. This section only applies if a senior citizen has income in the nature of pension and no other income except interest from the bank. So only two kinds of incomes the senior citizen can have. Number one, pension income. Number two, interest income from that bank. No other income. TDS on purchase of goods more than 50 lakh rupees, section 194Q. This is a bit important section, boss. Let me explain this to you in detail. 1 second. See, you have to think from the standpoint of a buyer. You are a buyer. You are a buyer. Your last year turnover was more than 10 crores. You are a buyer, your last year turnover, if it is more than 10 crores, then whenever you are buying goods from the seller, if you are buying the goods from your seller for more than 50 lakh rupees, in a previous year, from one particular seller, one seller, if you are buying goods worth more than 50 lakh rupees in a financial year, and if your last year turnover was more than 10 crore rupees, in that case this section 194Q will apply in your case. And at the time of you making payment to this seller, no, you have to deduct TDS at the rate of 0.1% on the amount which exceeds 50 lakhs. Let's say, for example, in this year, you purchased goods for 75 lakh rupees from this seller. Then you will deduct TDS only on 25 lakh rupees. You will not deduct TDS totally on 75 lakh rupees. Only the amount which exceeds 50 lakhs, on that you will deduct TDS. I hope that is crystal clear. Getting it? Let's read this. Important, boss. Any person buyer whose last year turnover was more than 10 crores. Rate of TDS at the rate of 0.1% of a sum of purchase excess of 50 lakhs. Excess of 50 lakhs. Let's say, for example, your seller did not give you PAN at that time. 0.1% will become 5%. You have to deduct TDS at the rate of higher rate, which is 5%. Threshold limit TDS only on excess amount of above 50 lakhs. Now, note, very very important note, boss. If for a transaction both 206C1H and 194Q applies, then TDS under section 194Q shall apply. If for transaction both 206C1, 1F, 1G and 194Q applies, then TCS shall be collected. What is this, sir? We are not understanding. You will understand this only once you finish off TCS concepts. Are you getting this? We will come back to this point in some short while. Once I finish off 206C1, 1F, 1G and 1H, then you will better understand what I am trying to say here. There are some CBDT clarifications. What is it, sir? Now I told you that you have to check last year turnover if it is exceeding 10 crores. Yes or no? I told you here, if your last year turnover is more than 10 crores. What if the entity itself is a new entity? Very first year I am starting my business, then how will I check my last year turnover? In that case, last year turnover will become nil and you are not required to deduct TDS. Is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear? If in a case of a newly entity established current previous year, then the last year turnover is nil. Therefore, TDS under 194Q is not required to be deducted in the first year. Is it clear? Next. No need to deduct TDS on the GST component. Only excluding GST, whatever sale value is there, on that you will deduct TDS. Now, benefit or perquisite arising from a business or profession. When you do business, let's say for example, Someone gave you order to manufacture something. You manufactured better than the quality what that customer was expecting. So out of happiness, he is giving something extra perquisite. In that case, that perquisite will be taxable in your hands. It will be taxed at the rate of 10%, and it will be taxed only if the perquisite value is exceeding 20,000 rupees. Now, there are some miscellaneous provisions. Let's have a look at this. Let's say, for example, at the time of making payment to your party, you forgot to deduct TDS. It any section, for example, the other party at the time of making payment, when you are making payment to the other party, for example, you forgot to deduct TDS, then there is something called as a grossing up concept, boss. Grossing up of income concept. What is it, sir? Let's say, for example, 10,000, or let me change the scenario actually, it will be easy for you. Let's say, for example, me and my other party, we agreed that in the agreement it is written that I have to pay 10,000 to the other party. I have already agreed, we have written the agreement that I will be paying 10,000 to the other party. But we forgot to consider the TDS in the agreement. So at the time of making payment, if I deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%, for 10,000, how much I should deduct? 1,000. And I should make net payment of 9,000 only. But the other party was expecting how much payment in hand? 10,000 he was expecting payment in hand. But I forgot, even he forgot to discuss the TDS provisions in that agreement. No. Now, agreement once written, he will tell, no, da, you did not tell me that you will be paying 9,000 to me. You have to pay 10,000 to me in hand now. I don't know what you will do. In that kind of a scenario, this grossing up concept will come. So, in that case, you have to anyway pay 10,000 only to that party because you have agreed in the agreement. Written agreement, it is there. He will otherwise sue you in the court of law. He will keep you behind the bars. Yes or no? So, you panicked and told that, okay, boss, let me pay this 10,000 to him. Now, I told you TDS rate is 10%. In that case, you have to gross up this 10,000, and out of your pocket only you have to deposit the tax or the TDS to the government. How, sir? This 10,000 if you paid, that represents 90% or not? Because if TDS supposed to be deducted 10%, then this 10,000 whatever you paid to that party represents 90% only, no? Then you will do one small math that if this 10,000 represents 90%, then 10% of TDS will represent how much? If you do 10,000 into 10 by 90, you will get the TDS amount which you were supposed to deduct. That amount you will take from your own pocket and deposit in the government's hand in the form of TDS. That is called a grossing up. Okay. Now there is a concept called lower deduction certificate. Let's say, for example, someone is making payment to me and he is saying that he will deduct TDS. But I know that my income for this year is not going to increase more than basic exemption limit. If my income is not increasing more than basic exemption limit, including that income which I am going to receive from that other party, then I am not supposed to pay any tax. No, because my income itself, let's say for example, in this year, I do not have any income except that 1 lakh rupee which the payer is trying that, which the payer is saying that he will pay to me. If I don't have any income other than that 1 lakh, even if I take that 1 lakh, do I need to pay tax anything? Because my basic exemption limit is 2,50,000, boss. But unnecessarily he will deduct TDS because he is required to deduct TDS under the provisions of some other section. In that case, you have an option. You can ask the assessing officer, sir, I need one certificate called as lower deduction certificate. My income from past 5 years is 1 lakh only. I never paid tax because all the years my income is less than basic exemption limit. And now in this year also, if I am receiving the amount, that other person is saying that he will deduct TDS. So please give me one certificate so that I can show to my payer and tell him that don't deduct TDS, boss. I got a certificate from assessing officer. For this certificate Xerox also I will give you. You can keep it with you. If the assessing officer asks you in future why you did not deduct TDS, at the time you show this certificate to the assessing officer. So that is called as the lower deduction certificate. Now Declaration for receipt of a dividend without TDS, same exactly same concept boss. If you do not want your payer to deduct TDS, you have to go and file a declaration with the income tax department. They'll give you one certificate. You can show this to the payer. The payer will not deduct TDS. Otherwise, the payer will deduct TDS. These certificates are generally given for those people whose income is a totally less than a basic exemption limit. Next, when you should deposit the TDS, sir. So far what we have seen, those transactions on which TDS has to be deducted. So let's say, for example, I am payer. I deducted lot of TDS from various people payment which I made. So I deducted TDS. What I will expend, I will do party with that TDS amount. Sir, no, I have to take this amount every month. I have to deposit. Let's say, for example, this is March month. Whatever TDS I deducted in this March month, I have to deposit within a 7th of April, boss. I mean, sorry, this is the month of March. No, that is by April. Immediately it is coming. No, see, from April month till February month, each month you have to deposit within the 7th of next month. But in the month of March, whatever you deduct TDS, no, that will be deposited within 30th of April. So only for March month they are giving more time. 30th April till 30th April. Let's say, for example, you deducted TDS for the month of December, then you have to deposit whatever deducted TDS within 7th of Jan. If you deducted for October, then within 7th of November you will deposit. But only for March month, boss. This March month, whatever I deducted TDS has to be deposited with the government within a 30th April of next financial year. Means very simple, boss. For the March month, 30th April is the due date for depositing. Not just depositing the TDS, then I have to also file something called as TDS returns quarterly. For 30th quarter ending 30th June, you have to file a TDS return and TCS return. The dates are given here when you have to file return. In TDS or TCS return, very simple, boss. From whoever parties you have deducted TDS, one return will be there. You will give all the details and file it with the income tax department just to ensure that, just to cross check that you have deposited full TDS whatever deducted from various parties. Next, consequences of failure to deduct TDS. Sir, what will happen if I did not deduct TDS? If you have not deducted TDS, what will happen? There are two kind of a situation. If you do not deduct TDS, if you remember, there is one section 40A1. If you are a business person, 30% will be disallowed. If you are making payment to non-resident, 100% will be disallowed. Are you getting that? Next, interest on late deduction or late payment of TDS. This is important, boss. This is important. Let's say, for example, on one particular transaction, you were required to deduct TDS, but you did not deduct TDS. In that case, interest will be levied on the TDS. So, late deduction, you lately deducted. In that case, interest rate is 1% per month or part of the month. From which date? From the date on which TDS was deductible. Means from the date in which on which you were supposed to deduct TDS till the date on which TDS was actually deducted. For this duration, from the date you were supposed to deduct TDS till the date you actually deducted, the interest will be levied at the rate of 1% per month or part of the month. You deducted TDS, but you deposited lately with the government. In that case, the interest rate will be 1.5% per month. From the date on which TDS was actually deducted till the date on which you deposited the TDS. Now, there is one section 206 AA. If payee does not furnish the PAN to the payer, TDS shall be deducted at higher rates. How much rates? TDS rate specified in the respective section or TDS at the rate of 20%, whichever is higher. For 194Q, the rate is 5%. We already discussed 0.1% will become 5%. Yes or no? Next. TCS. TCS. What is TCS, sir? See, TDS means what? The payer will deduct a little bit of amount from the payment. That is TDS. TCS means the collector, the receiver of the money will take some extra money from you. That is called tax collector at source. If I have to simply take one example, if I am a buyer of goods, whenever the seller will sell me goods, I have to make payment to the seller. At the time of making a payment to the seller, I may deduct TDS. That is called TDS. Let's look at from the standpoint of seller now. I am a seller of goods. Someone is buying goods from me. At the time of selling, I have to collect some extra tax, that is called tax collected at source. Just for example purpose, I am taking this thing. Now, the first section is 206C1, TCS collected on sale of certain goods. If you sell any of these goods, then you will collect TCS at the rate of these rates what are mentioned. Are you getting this? But you will not collect a TCS if the buyer is using the goods for personal consumption, means from the general customers, or if the buyer is a public sector company, or the buyer is the central government or state government or embassy, high commission, consulate. These parties you will not collect a TCS. All other parties you will collect a TCS. Next, 206C1C, TCS on lease or licensing of a parking lot, toll plaza. You know these highways, toll plaza will be there. All those toll plazas are given on a lease or license of a toll plaza, mine or quarry. In that case, whatever amount will be received by the lessor, on that TCS will be collected. How much, sir? 2%. Nature of transaction are given here: leasing a parking lot, toll plaza, mine, quarry for a purpose of business. 206C1 of C, whenever you buy a motor vehicle of worth more than 10 lakhs, in that case the seller will collect a TCS. Let's say for example you went to purchase one car, boss. The car worth is 15 lakhs. You are a customer, no, at the time of paying making payment to the that owner, showroom person, the showroom person will collect something from you at the rate of 1%, which is called as tax collected at source. TCS they will collect apart from 15 lakhs of sale value. Are you getting that? So the seller will collect the extra tax from you, which is called tax collected at source. Now mind you, let's say for example, the manufacturer of car is different, the distributor is different, then the customer. So three parties are involved, no? Yes or no? Manufacturer, distributor, and the retail seller. Then you will get what, the customer. Yes or no? So manufacturer, when he is selling goods to distributor, TCS will not be collected. Distributor, when he is selling cars to retail showroom, still TCS will not be collected. But when a retailer showroom will sell a car to customer, only in that transaction TCS will be collected. Is it clear? Now, so the TCS rate given is 1%. Threshold limit is 10 lakhs. TCS will apply only in case of sale of motor vehicle at retail level. The showroom, when it is selling to the final customer, only then the TCS will be collected. No TCS on sale by manufacturer to dealer or distributors. Two-wheelers are not covered. You buy two-wheeler for 20 lakhs also does not matter. Only four-wheelers and above. 206C1G, liberalized remittance scheme and overseas tour package. This section is applicable in the case of that foreign exchange dealers. Who is a foreign exchange dealer? Let's say for example you want to send some money abroad, or you are going abroad. If you go abroad, you need dollars, no, boss. If you want to go abroad, you need dollars. Here you have Indian money. If you take Indian money and go there, it is not a challing. Yes or no? Yes or no? So what you will do, you will go to one foreign exchange dealer, you will give your cash, you will take back dollars. For that he will charge you what? Commission. Yes or no? If you are making payment to foreign exchange dealers, and for these purposes which is mentioned here, in that case the seller of the foreign exchange dealer will collect extra tax from you, which is under section 206C1 1G. Remittance of money more than 7 lakhs under the liberalized remittance scheme of RBI. If you want to remit money under all LRS schemes, I mean, it's very simple, boss. You want to send or you want to exchange more than 7 lakh rupees for sending money outside India. In that case, TCS is applicable. Or if you are buying a tour package, sale of overseas tour program package, in that case TCS will be collected. Authorized dealer or seller of OTPP, person other than a non-resident visiting, means for these buyers, generally for all buyers the TCS will be collected, but for these buyers TCS will not be collected. Rate of TCS, remittance more than 7 lakhs under liberalized remittance scheme. So if you are exchanging the currency for a education purpose or medical purpose, means you want to send abroad the money for education purpose for someone, or for medical treatment of someone. In that case, 5% of TCS will be collected for amount exceeding 7 lakhs. But if you are sending for some other purposes, the money, in that case 20% of TCS will be collected. If you are converting the money, I mean the converting the currency with the operator of a tour program package, in that case for purpose of tour, if you are taking up to 7 lakhs, 5%, for more than 7 lakhs, if you are taking, then 20% of TCS will be collected from you. Note, in case of liberalized remittance scheme, means if you want to remit amount outside India for education purpose and medical purpose, there are two rates given. No, but there is one special case, one more special case. Remittance amount is out of education loan, means you took some education loan from a bank. That loan amount, if you want to send abroad, in that case TCS rate will be applicable only 0.5%, though it is for education purposes. So if you have taken an education loan, then TCS of 0.5% will apply instead of 5%. Now 206C1H, TCS on sale of goods. Now if you remember, under 194Q, I told you that we will come back to that provision, yes or no, after you read a TCS provision. Now see, 194Q we in detail discussed that if you are a buyer, your turnover of last year more than 10 crore. In that case, if you are buying or making payment to seller for more than 50 lakh rupees, the seller, in that case you will deduct TCS at the TDS at the rate of 0.1% on the amount exceeding 50 lakhs. I told you, yes or no. Similarly, 206C1H also has the same kind of a provision. It says that if you are a seller and there is a buyer, so if you are a seller and selling goods worth more than 50 lakh rupees to a buyer, and let's say for example, if seller's turnover of last year is more than 10 crores, in that case the seller has to collect a TCS under section 206C1H from the buyer. TCS under section this. Now if you closely have a look, let's say for example, buyer also satisfying last year turnover more than 10 crores, seller also satisfying last year more than 10 crores, then both are required to deduct TCS and collect TCS. No, in this scenario also more than 50 lakhs he is buying from the same seller. In this scenario also seller is selling the goods to the same buyer for more than 50 lakhs. Then clash is happening, no, under both the sections. So in that kind of a scenario, you have to follow 194Q only. You have to not follow 206C1H. I will explain you in detail now. I am a buyer. My last year turnover is more than 10 crores. I am buying goods from one seller who is selling me goods worth more than 50 lakhs. In that case, I am required to deduct TDS under section 194Q, yes or no, on excess payment, whatever I will make more than 50 lakhs, yes or no, yes or no. Now, look at from the standpoint of the same seller in the same transaction. If my seller's last year turnover is more than 10 crores, last year's turnover is more than last year turnover is more than 10 crores, he is selling me only no goods. And under section 206C1H, it is given that if a seller's last year turnover is more than 10 crores and if that seller sells goods to a buyer for more than 50 lakh rupees, then the seller is required to collect a TCS. Then here in on the buyer's side, 194Q is telling a deduct TDS. On the seller's side, say on the same transaction, 206C1H is saying collect TCS. In this kind of a scenario, if 206C1H and 194Q both applies, in that case, the buyer has to deduct TDS under section 194Q. Then if once the buyer deducted TDS under 194Q, then the seller will not be required to collect any TCS under section 206C1H. I think that is absolutely clear. Let me revise this. Any person whose last year turnover is more than a 10, so mind you, here it is seller more than 10 crores. In that case, rate of TCS is 0.1%. And if the sale consideration is more than 50 lakhs, then only you will collect TCS. So when you will collect TCS under 206C1H, if the buyer's turnover last year is not more than 10 crores, in that case, the buyer will not be required to deduct any TDS at the time of making payment. Then the seller will get a chance to collect a TCS on that transaction. Next. So wherever that point which we left here, that point which we left here, 194Q, if you remember. So what is it trying to say? Here. So what is it trying to say? These 2 points, let me clarify. If for a transaction both 206C1H and 194Q apply, then the TDS under section 194Q only shall apply, which we discussed just now. But in the case of transactions of 206C, 1F, 1G and 194Q also applies, then you have to collect a TCS only. Then the deductor will not deduct TDS under section 194Q. Are you getting that? Next. Next comes advance tax. Very simple, boss. Advance tax means during the financial year itself, you have to assume how much your total income will be and you have to make a tax payment in installments. You need not wait for the last month to end and then pay tax at the end of the year. Are you getting this? So advance tax means during the financial year in which you will earn income, every quarter you will assume or you will estimate your total tax liability for the year, and in installments you will pay tax, which is called as advance tax. How much you have to pay tax? And this advance tax concept applies only if you think that or you estimate that your total tax liability for the year is going to be more than 10,000. If your total tax liability for the year is less than 10,000, you need not pay any advance tax. Advance tax means a tax paid in the previous year in which the income is earned. How to estimate? Method of calculation, very very important. Step 1, estimate the current year income. You have to estimate how much income you are roughly going to earn in this year. Step 2, compute advance tax liability on estimated income. How to compute, sir? If you are individual, apply the slab rates. Are you getting this? And you can consider any TDS already deducted by any person. Applicability, applicable only if advance tax liability is 10,000 or more. Note, in the case of a senior citizen who is not doing any business, in that case, no need to pay any advance tax. How much to pay, sir? To 15th of June, I told you quarterly you have to pay advance tax. To 15th of June, you have to pay at least 15% of total advance tax liability. 15th of September, 45%, 15th of December, 75%, and 15th of March, by 15th of March, 100% of the advance tax liability means your estimated tax liability has to be fully paid. If the assessee opts for presumptive basis of taxation, PGBP, remember 44 AD, minimum 8%, 6% of the gross receipts he has to pay tax. In that case, 100% of the advance tax liability shall be paid before 15 March. Means if you are paying, if you are opting for 44 AD optional, what do you call presumptive taxation under 44 AD or ADA or AE, in that case you have to pay advance tax only in a one shot on 15th of March. You need not pay in 4 equal installments. Any tax paid till 31st of March previous year will be considered as advance tax only. Simply to put, during the previous year in which you earned income, you paid any kind of tax, that will be called as advance tax only. Whatever income tax you will pay after the previous year in the assessment year before filing your return of income will be called as the self-assessment tax. Next, delayed payment interest 234A, 234B, 234C. There are three sections, boss. 234A says you have to pay interest if you have delayed filing your tax return. Means, let's say for example, your return of filing, your due date of filing return of income is 31st July, for example. But you filed a return of income in the month of December. Then by how many months you delayed? August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. For these 5 months, you have to pay interest at the rate of 1%, 1% per month. On what amount, sir? On the total tax liability which was pending payable with the tax return. Let's say for example, in the tax return 10,000 tax was outstanding payable, then on that 10,000 into 1% into 5 months you will pay interest under section 234A. Interest on delay in filing of return of income. Formula for interest computation: unpaid tax as per return of income into rate of interest into period. Unpaid tax is what, sir? Remaining tax liability as per return of income after deducting all the TDS, TCS, whatever reliefs you have. Rate of interest is 1% per month. From the date after the due date of filing return of income till the date of actually filing return of income, you have to pay interest under the section 234A. Next interest is 234B. Let's say for example, The advance tax which you paid during the previous year is less than 90% of the total tax liability of the year. Assessed tax means first you paid the advance tax, then the return of income was processed and they will assess some tax no under the normal processing of a tax return. At that time whatever assessed tax is there, that will be compared with how much advance tax you paid. If you paid more than 90% of the assessed tax, then there is no interest under 234b. If the advance tax what you paid is less than 90% of the assessed tax, what assessed tax means, that tax which you finally you paid a tax on. Advance tax you pay on estimated income. Assessed tax is on the actual income. Are you getting that? Formula. Advance tax short paid. Short paid means how much a difference. Rate of interest period. Advance tax short paid means what, sir? Assessed tax minus advance tax already paid. On the difference you have to pay interest at the rate of 1% per month. From when I have to calculate interest, sir? From 1st April of the assessment year till the actual date of payment of that short tax. Note, interest not applicable if assessee paid minimum of 90% of advance tax payable. 234C. See, advance tax I told you 14%, 15%, 45%, 75%, 100% of the advance tax liability you have to pay in 4 equal installments, no quarterly. If you have delayed those advance tax payments, then interest under section 234C will be levied. Interest payable for deferment of advance tax payments. How, sir? Deferred amount into rate of interest into period. How much is the deferred amount, sir? Deferred amount is given in this column. 15% of tax you are required to pay. 15, 45, 75, 100. Remember that advance tax table. Less advance tax paid till that date. So whatever difference will be there will be what? That advance tax which you did not pay. You were supposed to pay 15% of advance tax liability, but you did not pay. In that case, interest will be levied. First three columns, if you see, it is given 3 months. Last month, it is given only 1 month. Why? Because last month, if you remember the last installment of advance tax, the date given is by 15th March, you have to pay the last installment. So from 15th March, only till 31st March, you have to pay interest. No. So that 15 days is treated as 1 month and you have to pay interest. Now, there is one important note. If the advance tax paid by the assessee on the current income on or before 15th June and 15th September is not less than 12% and 36%, in that case, there is no need of interest. Means in these two installments, boss, if you had paid minimum 12% here, minimum 36% here, you are required to pay 15% and 45%, but you paid 12% minimum and 36% minimum in the second installment, then interest will not be levied. Next, fees for, I'm sorry, fees for a delay in a default in furnishing TDS returns. Let's say, for example, you belatedly filed a TDS returns. In that case, 200 per day will be levied as a penalty or a fees, you can say, for delay in filing TDS TCS returns. But mind you, the total fee which you are supposed to pay should not exceed the TDS amount. 234F will be levied if you file your tax return, income tax return belatedly. How much, sir? If the income which you offered in the tax return is up to 5 lakhs, 1000 rupees you will pay as a delayed fees. If you have a paid, if your total income is exceeding 5 lakh rupees, in that case, you have to pay fees of 5000 rupees. And one more provision, recently Modi told you have to link your Aadhaar with PAN. If you don't link, in that case, 1000 penalty. Now currently 1000 rupees is the penalty. You have to pay penalty and then link the PAN and Aadhaar. Okay guys, this ends up our discussion on advanced tax, TDS and TCS.